Welcome back to the Space School, otherwise known as PPSW. Today we're back with a brand new Star Wars theory. Today we're doing what if Commander Cody had his inhibitor chip removed. The inhibitor chips, if you guys don't know, here's some background information, were a massive part of the Clone Wars Season 5. During this season, a clone trooper by the name of CT-5385, otherwise known as Clone Trooper Tup, had his chip malfunction inside of his head. During this malfunction, he killed one of the few Jedi generals he was serving under. Afterwards, he and his friend CT-5555, otherwise known as Fives, went back to Kamino to do tests. During those tests, it was discovered that there were inhibitor chips inside of the clone troopers. Long story short, Fives removes his chip and doesn't die from doing so. The Kaminoans and the Chancellor Palpatine cover up this plot for the eventual execution of the Jedi Order. After Fives was killed by Commander Fox of the Coruscant Guard, Rex recorded a hololog of everything that had transpired. The story is going to cover what would have happened had Rex talked to one of his best friends and fellow leaders in the Grand Army of the Republic, Commander Cody, about what had happened. Before we go any further, guys, check out our Discord down below, our Twitch down below, and our Patreon down below if you want to support the channel and the content I put out. I would really appreciate it. And shout out to our Patreon member, George Story. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. As always, my friend, I am so overly thankful for it. Anyways, since we're all here for this video, let's get straight into the video because that's why you're watching. Our story begins in the barracks on Coruscant. Captain Rex has just recorded his message that would be kept in secrecy. Captain Rex then finds an empty room and calls upon his good friend, Commander Cody. Being brothers, when Commander Cody answered, he could already tell that Rex had something heavy on his mind. Cody was on the battlefront with Obi Wan Kenobi, but there was a brief moment of hesitation in the combat, a moment where the chaos of war was silenced. In the dugouts of war, Cody found himself a quiet place to talk to his friend, at Rex's request. Rex explained that he wanted to apologize for bringing this up to him, and that he was unsure if this were breaking Republic protocol after all, but it had to be done. Rex had just experienced something that haunted him dearly, and he needed a brother to hear him out. Anakin was on the side of the Chancellor, but there was something out of place here, and Rex could tell that there was foul play in the waters, but he didn't know where. Cody listened as Rex continued telling him that the inhibitor chips that ARC Trooper 5's found could make the entire Grand Army of the Republic do anything that someone wanted. At least that's what he was theorizing. Cody was a bit starstruck by this, by the notion of having to do anything he or she wanted them to do. Cody believed in the ability to think for yourself. Even though he was extremely loyal to the Republic, he wasn't particularly thrilled by the concept of this. He responded, once Rex was done, by telling Rex that he would use his rank to dig a little deeper into the matter and see if he could find a way to remove his chip as well. Until that time, Cody told Rex to think about getting rid of his own inhibitor chip as time moved forward. Cody didn't also seem too fond of trusting the Jedi when it came to this. Even though he respected and cared for General Kenobi, across the Grand Army of the Republic there were countless clones who resented their Jedi generals. The late Pong Krell was a great example of the treachery to the Republic war effort. Cody thought it best to keep to himself, and himself alone, regarding the inhibitor chips. As the war neared its end, Cody found himself a break from the combat. Not long, but he was able to do some research regarding this inhibitor chip and was able to bypass a lot of Republic security codes to get the bare minimum information he needed. And that information was the precise location of where the inhibitor chip was located inside of his head. Cody had spent hours looking for this information, and so, when he finally received it, he was a bit overjoyed. He continued prying but couldn't get anything deeper than that. Cody moved down to the medical bay and prepared the medical droid with the exact procedure of how to get the inhibitor chip out of his head. Commander Cody was then put under and didn't wake up until he felt the ship rocking back and forth. Cody jumped up from his bed and tumbled to the ground. The medical droid walked over to help and pick up the slightly shaken commander. He asks what had happened, and the droid tells Cody that the Republic cruiser was in the middle of a siege over the planet Coruscant, the capital of the Republic. Cody was a bit bewildered. He was missing one of the most pivotal moments of the entire Clone Wars. The medical droid suggested to Cody not to leave the medical bay, but he disobeyed orders and grabbed his gear. As Cody finally made his way to the command bridge, Admiral Yularen informed him that the battle had been a victory, and that the Republic was routing the rest of Separatist forces. Cody was relieved to hear that everything was going as a success. Eventually, it was revealed that the Republic was closing in on a victory in the grand arena of war. Jedi Masters and their armies were being dispatched across the galaxy to destroy the remainders of the Separatist forces. Even more so, with the death of Count Dooku and the location of General Grievous, it seemed even more evident that the Clone Wars could come to a rapid end. Cody sat alone in his quarters awaiting the news of their next deployment. thinking about what he would want to do with his life once the Clone Wars were over. He thought that he could possibly live a decent life thanks to his service in the Republic. He was still extremely loyal, but he did still think about what life could be without the service. Cody didn't ever really think about this or really consider this before. The lack of a chip seemed to make Cody feel a little bit more free than him normally. Cody was summoned to the bridge, though, of the Venator, and so he went, grabbing his armor, throwing it on his back, and then grabbing his helmet to his side. When he got to the hangar bay, he looked at his Jedi General. They'd become close friends over the years, over the time of the war. Kenobi trusted Cody, and Cody trusted Kenobi. Especially the most recent battle where Kenobi saved Cody's life from a rocket heading directly towards him. Kenobi was starting to gray over the sideburns on his face, but his beard was dashing as ever. Cody arrived, and Kenobi informed his clone commander of the mission at hand. They were going to go to Utapau to kill General Grievous and bring an end to the war. Kenobi and Cody made some final remarks, joking back and forth with one another, defining their relationship not only as soldiers, but as brothers on the battlefield. Kenobi was the first wave of the assault, going in, finding the location of the droid army, and then the wave 2 was the entire Republic invasion of Utapau. The stage was set as Kenobi found the whereabouts of the droid army. The Grand Army of the Republic could feel it. For the most part, morale was high around the military, especially after the grand victory over Coruscant. When Kenobi's astromech returned with information regarding the droid army, the fleet was dispatched to Utapau, ready to dispose of the Seppies. When the fleet arrived, it was an all-out war. The Republic began invasion, just as Kenobi had engaged General Grievous. They had a massive chase that led across all fronts of the battlefield itself. Cody, on the front lines, led an assault against the droids when a lightsaber fell before him. It seemed as if the battle was progressing, but he had a slight inclination of fear for his pal Kenobi. Without a lightsaber, he could very easily lose to Grievous, but Kenobi was much too stubborn to let that happen anyways, and Cody knew that for sure. Cody kept up the good fight where he was being held at. The clones across the city were winning, and, well, they were losing some too. Cody and his men were pushing as hard as they could, but then Cody heard a particular sound. It was his Jedi General, Obi Wan Kenobi. Cody looked up at the Jedi, who was riding a large lizard creature that Cody had never seen before. Kenobi informed Cody that the duel with General Grievous was a victory, but the battle itself still needed to be won. Obi-Wan took his lightsaber as he thanked his clone commander. As he whipped the tie on the massive beast, he rode, and it soon jumped into movement. All of a sudden, Commander Cody felt his communications buzz. It was uncommon, but regardless, he heard over the communication.
Commander Cody, the time has come. Execute Order 66.
Cody was a bit puzzled, as he requested the information of such order. Sidious responded slyly with,
The Jedi have committed treason against the Galactic Republic. All Jedi must be executed.
Cody accepted his orders and turned the artillery piece and told it to fire. Kenobi had gotten closer to the top of the cliff he was traversing, and then all of a sudden a massive shell smashed into the Jedi General, cementing him into the wall. The short period of time of Cody's questioning gave the artillery and the surrounding troops who overheard the order the ability to target their shot perfectly onto Kenobi. Cody looked up at the rock above and saw that Kenobi and the animal were nothing but dust. There was nothing falling, no chance for survival. Cody looked at a couple of men and told them to go ensure that Kenobi was dead. Cody continued the battle, but it was still in his mind. He was loyal to the Republic, so what was it that Kenobi and his band of buddies did that caused their execution? But Cody did know that if he knew that Order 66 meant that the Jedi had committed high treason against the Republic, he would have called the shot earlier. His men died ruthlessly under Jedi command. Some of those Jedi were atrocious leaders, with little to no disregard for their men. Cody only now wished he could have pulled the trigger himself. This blind rage led Cody to pursue a victory on Utapau. The clones cleaned up house, and the Jedi Master named Obi Wan Kenobi was confirmed dead. His lightsaber was found in the middle of the rubble and given to Cody as a trophy. Elsewhere in the galaxy, the Jedi Temple was burned, and its prized Chosen One was being dispatched to the planet Mustafar to eradicate the Separatist leaders. Anakin did so swiftly and decisively. He was alone, and thinking about everything that he had done in the waning hours of the Clone Wars. Tears fell down his face, but this was for Padme. He was doing this all for her. Anakin wanted to see her so badly. He had calmed down from his rage just a little, and now he was ready to think clearly. Obviously, he was awaiting orders from his master, so he decided to sit inside where the rotting corpses of the Trade Federation leaders were. Across the galaxy, Grand Master Yoda, one of the few remaining Jedi Masters to survive the Purge, returned to Coruscant with Senator Bail Organa from Alderaan. The Senate had been reconvened for an emergency session, of which the entire Republic was being uprooted by the Chancellor and turned into the First Galactic Empire. Master Yoda had cleaned up the Jedi Temple, and so he was looking for any survivors left. Yoda was alone. He knew he couldn't beat both Sidious and Vader, so he did the very thing that he told Anakin not to do, and trusted his feelings. Yoda had sensed it when Anakin came to visit him. He felt that Anakin was worried about a friend in his personal life, a friend that he'd been seen with several times. Even more than that, Yoda saw this particular friend embrace him moments after Anakin lost his arm on Geonosis to Count Dooku. Master Yoda decided that he would pay Padme Amidala a visit, considering he could feel it through the Force that she was in the later parts of her pregnancy, with no spouse. Yoda arrived at Padme's apartment on Coruscant's skyrises. She was a little jarred to see the Grand Master there. He told her that it would be best if she left Coruscant. He continued by telling her that Anakin had ravaged the Jedi Temple, killing younglings, Padawans, knights, and masters alike. Padme was hesitant to believe Master Yoda until he revealed a hologram of Anakin killing the members of the Jedi Temple. She was outraged, heartbroken. The man she loved was a menace, and even more, he twisted the point of view to believe that he was in the right for all this carnage that he was creating. Padme thought hard. She was scared, terrified of the possibilities of Anakin's new powers and the madness behind them. She hadn't seen it firsthand, but if what Yoda showed her was true, then they were all doomed. Padme knew that the newly crowned Emperor could have it out for her. She had been very vocal against Palpatine during the Clone Wars, though he hadn't shown any hostility to his constituents. He was now supreme leader in the galaxy. Padme would pack all of her belongings and prepare herself to leave with the Grand Master. She just needed a place to call refuge for a short while. Her friend Bail Organa offered her a place back at home on his homeworld of Alderaan. On Alderaan, she would be protected, and it would be a safe place to keep Padme and her unborn child safe until Anakin learned his place or restrained from his rage, though any redemption for Anakin Skywalker would be lost when his Emperor told him to return to Coruscant and realized that Padme was gone. Palpatine hadn't planned on Padme's quick exit. He expected Anakin to fall for the deceit once again. But not even Palpatine was able to prolong the rage of Skywalker. Little did he know that this would send Anakin over the edge, pushing him into an angrier state of mind, more so than he ever thought were possible. Anakin wasn't someone to be reasoned with, or have anything explained to. On Mustafar he cemented himself as Vader, but here on Coruscant he would define himself as true power. When he entered the Emperor's office, he confronted his new master. Sidious was happy to see his apprentice. After years of manipulating him, he finally turned to the dark side of the Force. It was a great moment for the Sith Lord, a moment as close to victory as he had ever been, but Sidious wasn't dumb. He could tell that there was something off with his apprentice. Anakin seemed like he was ready to kill the first person he saw, and Sidious was wary of where he stepped. He truly didn't know that Padme had left the planet yet, or that Master Yoda had survived the Purge. Sidious approached Anakin from behind his desk.
You have done well, Lord Vader. Our empire will be ready to expand to power the Republic could never dream of.
Anakin looked at him, then began to pace around the room, each step heavier than the last. Palpatine then tested the waters with his apprentice. Though he hadn't fought Yoda, Mace put him through the ringer. Palpatine walked a little away from Anakin and looked out the window of his office. The head just been replaced. Anakin then turned with anger in his eyes. "Where is she?" Palpatine quickly responded,
"Who, Lord Vader?"
Anakin's rage bubbled. His emotions were on edge, and his hand lifted to choke Palpatine, but it didn't work. And Sidious turned around.
"Are you threatening me, Lord Vader?"
Anakin glared at his new master and repeated his statement. "Where is she?" Sidious responded slyly.
"I don't know, Lord Vader, but the Jedi must be..."
Palpatine is cut off as Anakin dashes towards the Sith Lord with his blue lightsaber glowing, igniting into fury. Sidious was quick to whip out his lightsaber into combat with his apprentice.
"You have much to learn, Vader."
Sidious swung his blade as Anakin and him clashed in precise combat. The duel glided across the room. Palpatine and Anakin were in a clash of the Sith, a duel with the fate of the galaxy on the line. Anakin was powerful, and Sidious was too, but Anakin was unbalanced. Sidious didn't want to kill Anakin. He still wanted to use him as a vessel of evil, a vessel of the dark side. Anakin, on the other hand, of the clashing lightsabers, was ready to destroy everything in the galaxy to get to his wife. Fighting with fury, but patience, Anakin was much more imbalanced than the Mustafar Anakin, but it didn't mean that he wasn't imbalanced. Anakin swung back and forth, pushing the offensive. This teaching moment for Palpatine flipped the script on him. Anakin pushed forward and then punched Palpatine across the jaw. Anakin had fury in his eyes, and as Palpatine twisted around, after being clocked in the face, Anakin used his blade and slashed up across Palpatine's back. Anakin looked down at the wounded Palpatine. As he looked back at Anakin, who spoke very directly to his new master. "This is the end for you, my master." Palpatine looked up with shock. He didn't expect this lesson to turn into his failure. Thoughts rushed through Palpatine's head as he looked up at Anakin. The former Jedi looked down as he waited for Palpatine to use Force lightning like he did on Mace Windu. Palpatine raised his hands and shot lightning at Skywalker, who was awaiting the assault. Anakin began to block the lightning into Sidious as he walked forward and forward, faster and faster, and then he drove the electricity-filled lightsaber into the chest of Sidious. Anakin sheathed his lightsaber, and then breathed heavily, catching his breath from the onslaught of Palpatine. Anakin thought momentarily. He knew this would be treason. He had served the Republic, and now the Republic would serve him. Anakin, without hesitation, raised his hood over his head and jerked around and walked out of the Senate chambers after taking Palpatine's lightsaber, again as a trophy. Anakin called through his communication device to Commander Oppo of the 501st, telling him to ready the troops for combat. Commander Oppo replied with a swift acceptance of the orders, and by the time that Anakin returned to the fleet and told the fleet to prepare for combat, Admiral Yularen was a bit confused. Anakin made it perfectly clear that he was going to make his way through the core looking for Padme Amidala. Yularen asked why they would attack allied planets a part of the deep core. Anakin didn't hesitate to make Yularen feel as if he had no power in this decision. Yularen was in disagreeing with Anakin's motives, and Anakin looked at his longtime admiral and lifted him off the floor with the Force. "If you don't obey your orders, you will die." Releasing the Force choke, he looked down at the admiral on the floor and twisted his head. "What will your decision be?" Yularen stood up and immediately called out orders to the command deck, ensuring that they would be ready for combat. The 501st would begin campaigns on Republic planets led by Anakin Skywalker. Anaxis, Freyja, and Biss would be crushed below the true power of the 501st. The troops weren't just exhausted, but they were demoralized. They had slaughtered innocent civilians of the Republic. They executed children and burnt cities to the ground. Anakin was steadfast as ever. Clone troopers who tried to disobey orders were executed. People that try and mutiny, or try and escape, are force choked in front of the men. As an example, Anakin was ruthless, and he didn't want to stop, because he was looking for his wife. By this time, the weakened Empire would be sending troops to stop the clone incursion. Without an emperor and with a fragile Imperial Senate, the government would struggle to form around the fallen worlds of the Galactic Core. The Empire would eventually find out that it was Anakin who had killed the Emperor on Coruscant, and his unbridled rage across the galaxy had put the galaxy back on edge. The clones trashed 3 systems, and they were making its way for a 4th, though no one really knew where Vader's fleet would strike next. For Yoda and Padme, the fear of what would come next was unrivaled, but their fear became real when V-Wings and ARC-170s began conducting bombarding operations on the surface of Alderaan. The planet was caught off guard. No fleet knew where Anakin had been dispatching his troops between campaigns, but this planet, Vader, would finally meet the presence of the one he was looking for. Heavy artillery was ordered not to bombard the cities, but the clones, on the other hand, were sent to execute the citizens of the cities. Clone troopers busted down doors and slaughtered families of the people of Alderaan. Cries could be heard throughout the city, but those cries would soon be silenced by a lightsaber to save the day. A little green Jedi cut his way through the troops of the 501st, as Vader marched his way towards the sounds of his screaming men. Under his breath, he spoke the name, Master Yoda. Yoda looked over to see Vader, but before he could react, Vader lifted his hand and sent the Grand Master tumbling through walls and crashing hard onto the floor. Anakin came around and saw Padme. She had tears in her eyes, but she wasn't looking at Anakin. She was looking out at the chaos that he had created. He now wasn't this vessel of evil. He now wasn't the man who stood behind her, who said, "Padme, my love, I finally found you. Are you all right?" Padme hid her tears, her crying from him. Anakin stepped forward and then spoke. "Did Master Yoda tell you lies?" She still didn't turn around, but the second Anakin lay his hand on his shoulder, she turned around and smacked him across the face. Yoda on the other side was getting up, preparing to combat Vader. Anakin recoiled and looked at her. His eyes were yellow. His rampage across the core to find her turned him into a vile creature, a man of evil. Then Anakin felt a disturbance. As he turned around and asked, "What are you doing?" Commander Appa and his men began to open fire on Anakin. Leading a mutiny, he was caught off guard as he ignited his lightsaber, but he was already caught in the shoulder. Plasma was burning his skin. He guided his lightsaber back and forth, defending himself from the clones. His parries sent blaster bolts back towards the clones, killing some of them. But from the corner of his eyes, he saw someone fall. He knew it was Padme. She'd been hit in the crossfire. For Yoda, it was like slow motion, as Anakin turned his attention away from his men who were filling up the corridors, blasting away at Skywalker. Anakin's back was filled with blaster bolts as he fell next to his dead wife. The clones kept on firing, not stopping. Even when Anakin was long dead, they ran up to him and filled him with blaster bolts. Anakin and Padme lay dead on the floor, as explosions could be heard in the distance. When the clones ran outside, they watched the Resolute and the rest of Anakin's fleet be torn apart by a massive Republic fleet that had just emerged from hyperspace. LAATs and several more troop carriers landed on the ground and began their operation, shooting at the 501st men standing next to executed civilians. The firefight was brother versus brother, and the chaos was in brutal pain. Commander Cody led the ground assault, which led to the inevitable capture of Commander Appa and the men that had killed Anakin. The men who followed Anakin in the battle and survived would be court-martialed upon return to Coruscant. Most of them would be stripped from their rights of being a part of the Grand Army of the Empire, and they would be executed. As for the people of Kresia, Annexus, Biss, and Alderaan, they would pick up the pieces of what had happened to them. The Jedi were still outlawed, but the shift of the Empire changed into resolving back into a galactic republic. The surviving Jedi were directed by Yoda to go to a planet with an ancient Jedi temple. Yoda would take the children of Anakin Skywalker to Lothal to be trained by birth. Through the chaos of the invasion, Anakin never realized that Padme had given birth. Yoda would return to teaching Jedi, but the heart-wrenching pain of the past few days would haunt him for the coming years. Luke and Leia would grow into amazing Jedi and lead the new Jedi Order into the future away from the Reformed Republic. And though the travesty of the hero of the Republic, Anakin Skywalker, would be remembered in the hearts of all that remembered it, the galaxy itself would find peace without the noticeable interaction of the Jedi and without the existence of the Sith. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our story. I do hope you guys enjoyed this. As per usual, we're going to talk about some of the things that I tried doing this. I really didn't have an idea with this one, but I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. I thought it'd be interesting. I already knew from the beginning that I didn't want Kenobi to survive this. I don't think that Commander Cody would let Kenobi survive. He was very loyal to the Republic, and I don't really think he would make an exception for that. I actually think that if Cody had a short time to react to it, I think he would have actually killed Kenobi, because I feel like the shot that was made was a bit of a judgment call. It was like, oh, we'll kind of hit that. But if they had time to react to it, kind of time to slow it down, waiting for Commander Cody to give the order, they might actually directly hit Kenobi. Even though he might be a little higher up, I think that if they had had extra time, they would have been able to hit him directly and kill him. And I think killing Obi Wan would have led to a very interesting turn of events, which is what happened here. It's a tragic story. I mean, it really is. This one is pretty dark. The end of it really got dark, and I didn't expect to go that way, but you know, it happens sometimes. And I think that kind of captures the idea of the fall of Anakin Skywalker, the tragedies of what he would occur, or what he would create on the galaxy, things that he would do to the people of the galaxy because of the pain that he was suffering. And I think if Padme had gone to Alderaan and like she did in the story, I think Anakin would have torn half the Republic apart trying to find her. Obviously, I think it would have been natural for him to go to Naboo, but we can just agree that he sent scouts or something there, and she just wasn't there because he wanted to obliterate cities. Because at this point, he's a lunatic. He's lost everything. Everyone's dead. He's killed hundreds of people, and he's just ready to become Vader. He is Vader, and at this point where he kills Sidious instead of Obi-Wan, he's now further down the path of darkness than he would have been otherwise. And I think that's where the story kind of ends off with Anakin just living the travesty of the Chosen One. He did bring balance to the Force. He killed the last Sith, and he himself died. Being the last Sith, he died being that. And I think the travesty of this is that he dies bringing balance to the Force. And even more so, it's kind of tragic for Padme because she has to be dragged into it as well because he just exists. And yeah, so I do hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you all for subscribing and all you do for the channel. I really appreciate you guys. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share. It helps out the channel. It's fantastic. Anyways, guys, I love you all. Spread the love. And always, my friends, remember, may the Force be with you.